All right, guys, this is going to be section 6 of Asteroid Destroyer. So what we're going to do first is you're going to go to your game layout so you can see all your main stuff here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a background layer so that we can put our background on our main game. So in the layers window down here in the right, you're just going to right click and you're going to add a layer to the bottom. And where it says layer 0, we're just going to call that background. I just do BG for short. So now we have a background layer. Okay. With the background layer highlighted, you are going to scroll through your object window here and you're going to grab the background object and drag it on. So we're going to put the background object on like this. Okay. Now, this is a very common issue that'll happen, and I did this on purpose. So if you ever drag an object on and you see like this big white box covering it, the reason that happens is because the layers have a transparency to them. And this main layer was originally the bottom layer, and the bottom layer is always set to be not transparent, and that's why it has that white box. So the reason why this is covering it is we put a layer underneath it, and that underneath layer is getting covered up by this white box. So the general rule you want to do is whatever your bottom layer is, your background layer, if you click on that, go to the properties on the left, and you want to take transparent off for the bottom layer. Any layer above that, you want transparent to be on. So if I click on main layer, I can turn transparent on, and you'll see that white box goes away. And now that main layer isn't covering up my background. Okay. Then with the background, I'm just going to double check here. With the background, what we're going to do is we're going to set an origin on it. And you're going to notice that the background has different frames, animation frames. Okay. So just to refresh, in case you didn't get that, you just double click on the background and we're in the image editor right now. Okay. So the reason we have 3 frames is because we're going to basically use the same background object on different layouts to show the different backgrounds. Okay. The first thing we need to do is we need to click on the animation title here in the upper right, and we need to change the speed to 0. So basically, anytime you're using the animation frame for multiple images, but you don't actually want it to animate, you change the speed to 0. If the animation speed is above 0, what'll happen is no matter what background I'm choosing, it's always going to animate to the game over. And no matter what I put, it's going to show the game over, and we don't want that. So by putting the speed at 0, now I could choose what, what frame number I want to use on the layout, and it will just stay like that. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to change the origin on this. And we're going to do that to help align it into the corner. So the origin is this button right here. It's like a little target. You'll see origin. What you want to do is you want to right click it. And we want to quick assign the origin to the top left. The reason why we want to put it in top left is so that we can easily align this to the top left corner of our screen. The origin point on an object is basically used as a reference point because every object has a pixel location. So it has an X and Y coordinate, and it needs one specific pixel to determine the location of the object. That's determined through the origin point. Okay, so it's just important for helping us align it. Now we want the same origin on every frame. So what you can do is you can just right click origin again, and you can do apply to all animations. And now every frame has that same origin point. Okay, so then you're going to close it. And so the reason why we put the origin in the top left is now we can easily position that corner to the top left of our layout to line it up. And for X and Y coordinates, the way X and Y coordinates work is the X coordinate runs from left to right. So it starts 0 at the far left, and the X will increase as I move to the right. And when I get to this point, I'll be 1280 because that's the width of my layout. Okay. Y coordinate starts 0 at the top and increases as you go down. So the bottom of my layout's Y coordinate is 720, and the top is 0. So this top corner, the coordinate is 0, 0. So because I put the origin here in the top left, if I position this object at 0, 0, it's going to put this origin point right into that corner. So with the background highlighted, you can go to properties, click on position. You're going to type in 0, 0 for that coordinate, and it's going to tuck it right into the corner there. Okay. Now on my game layout, I obviously don't want this right now is the start screen. So I want to change it to the game screen. So if I just double click and look at this, the game screen is the middle one and it's frame number 1. So what I'm going to do in the properties here for my background, there's a property called initial frame. I'm going to change that to 1 and press enter, and it's going to change the frame to what I want. Now, this is why it was important I put the animation speed to 0 on that, because when I run the game, if the animation speed is above 0, this would animate to be the game over screen. So we want to keep it like this, okay? Now that I have this on the background and set, I'm going to lock my background layer so that I can't touch and mess with that background anymore, okay? All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add a start layout to put the start background on. So to add a layout, go to your layouts folder in the upper right. We're going to right click. We're going to add a layout. I'm going to say add an event sheet because I think we do want an ES start with that. So I'm going to add an event sheet. So this layout 1 that I just created, I'm just going to call it start. And this event sheet 1 I created with it, we're going to call that ES start. And that stands for event sheet start. So basically it's the event sheet that my start layout is going to be using. Since I created it with the start layout, it's already assigned, but just be aware that when you click on a layout and you open that, there is a spot where you can choose what event sheet it uses. So if you ever make a layout and you don't add an event sheet with it right away, which sometimes you'll do that because it's going to use an event sheet you've already made, by default it's going to go to none. So a really confusing thing that happens is you might make like level 3, for example, and it's going to use your ES game the same as your other levels. So you don't make it with an event sheet. By default, it has no event sheet. So what happens is you run it and nothing happens. It's because it doesn't have the code yet. So basically, if you ever run a level and nothing seems to be working properly, check and make sure that your layout is actually assigned an event sheet or it's assigned the proper event sheet. Okay. All right, so on the start layout, we have to set the size, and I believe we're at 1280 by 720. So double click your start layout here. We're going to change our size here on the left to 1280 by 720. Whoops, for some reason, there we go. So sometimes if it doesn't show the right stuff here, just go ahead and click the thing you want again, and it should go in. So here's my start layout, size 1280, comma 720. Press enter, and we're good on the size. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put the start background on here. So I'm gonna go ahead, just grab the background image. Remember, it has all of them on there. And because we already set the origin, that should stay. So I just set the position to 0, 0, just like we did on the last one. Okay, and then what I need to do is I need to change the initial frame. So go down here, and this one should be initial frame 0. And now that's the start screen. Remember, you can do Control minus to zoom out if you want to see it all. But that's what your start screen should look like. Okay. Um, and we will rename this layer background just to be consistent, and then we'll lock it down. And then later on, we might add another layer to this later, but if we do, this background's already set and ready to go. Okay, and we won't mess with that later. All right, so we have that. Now we're going to add some events so that we can actually run the game. So basically we want it so that when we're on the start screen, it'll take us to the game. And here, right on the picture, it says press enter to play. So we have to make an event that says when we press enter, we can play the game. Okay, so we're going to go to ES start. So now you'll notice this is a clean brand new event sheet, but this event sheet is assigned to just the start layout right now. So the reason why you use different event sheets is different levels or different layouts are going to act completely differently from each other. So you're going to need separate sheets of code so that it's only reading that code. It's not doing what the other event sheets say. So it's a way to kind of separate code from different parts of your game. It's kind of nice. So we're just going to add an event here. We're going to do keyboard on key pressed, and we want it to be enter. Okay, so we're going to click here. Now, normally you just press a key to do it. So like if I want it to be up, I would press up. But enter is different because if you press enter, that's actually confirming the selection here. So if you actually want enter to be the key for the code, you have to use this drop-down box and click enter here. Okay, and then you click OK, and then you click done. So now it says on enter pressed, we add an action for system. We do go to layout, and we're going to go to the game layout. Okay, just like that. Okay, then we're going to make, so that's our start screen basically. So now we're going to make a game over layout. So what we're going to do is we are going to right click on the layouts folder, add a layout. We are going to add an event sheet, and we're going to rename it Game Over. So right up here, you're just renaming it Game Over. And then the event sheet will be ES Game Over. Once again, we're connecting the event sheet to the layout name so that we understand what it is using, or which layout is using which event sheet. So I'm going to rename it. So I'm going to do ES Game Over, just like that, and we're good to go. And so we're going to do the same thing. So if you remember what we did in the last one, we're going to do the exact same thing. So Game Over, we're going to set the layout size, 1280 by 720. Okay, so once again, that's clicking on the Game Over layout, going to size here in the upper left, typing in 1280, 720, pressing enter. Okay, I'm going to do Control minus and zoom out a little bit. Remember, if you're doing Control minus and Control plus to zoom in and out, you have to like click on the layout one time just to register that you're on that, and then it will work. If you press Control plus or minus and it doesn't zoom in and out, just click on the layout one time and then it will work. Okay, so we've got that. Now we need to put the background on. So background on again. We can set position to 0, 0, just like we did the first time. And then we're going to change the initial frame down here to 2, which is going to give us the different background that we used. Right there, perfect. We'll rename this layer background, and we'll lock it down, just like we did. So basically the exact same thing that we did on the ES start. Okay, yeah, on the start. Okay. So we did all that. And then what we need to do is we need to press enter to play again here. So we can do that again. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, just like we did on the ES start, we're going to go on the ES game over. So we're going to add, so on ES game over, we want to make it so basically when we press enter, it will reset the game, right? So we're going to add an event, keyboard, on key pressed, click the choose. We're going to do the drop down and do enter again. Click OK. Okay, so on enter pressed, we're going to add an action, system, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go to layout. So we're going to do layout. Once again, just type in a word from the code you want, and then it should pop up. Go to game. Now, a question you might be asking right now, well, if we're pressing enter to go to the game, that's the exact same thing we did on ES start. So why are we doing a separate event sheet? Well, the reason why is on ES game over, we actually have to add another action here, and we're going to do something different that we don't want to happen on the start screen. So the big issue is when you restart a game, you have global variables, right? So if I go to if we look at my ES game really quick, you can see I have these global variables like wave and asteroid max speed, right? So if I were playing this game and let's say I died on wave 10, if I just restarted the game, it would start me on wave 10 again, even if I died, because this variable doesn't change. So what we have to do is when we do a game over, we have to reset these back to their default values so that the game actually restarts correctly. So on ES game over, we need another action here. We have to do system reset global variables. So basically it's going to take every global variable and reset it. Now, when you have these actions on a piece of code, the order is very important. So what we need to do is this reset variables has to be first. So what you can do is take the go to game and drag it below like that. It needs to look like this. The reason why the order is important is because the computer is going to process this from top to bottom. So the moment I press enter, we want to reset the variables and then go to game. Okay. If we did this in reverse order, it would actually start the game first at wave 10, then reset the variable back to 0. So it would do it in that exact order. So the issue would be is if I ended the game at wave 10 and I press enter, if we had this reversed, it would go to the game first. I would be on like wave 10 where I died. When I beat the wave, the variables would reset right after I start wave 10. So immediately after I start wave 10, the wave would go back to 0. So then I would defeat wave 10 and then it would go back to wave 1. It would be really confusing to the player. So the order of this is super important. We reset the variables first and then go to game. So just make sure you remember that. Okay. All right, so next we're going to get some text objects going on our main game so that the player can read some different things. Okay, so we're going to go to our game layout. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a text layer or a HUD layer on here. Okay, so I'm gonna right click and make a layer, and I'm gonna put it at the top, and I'm gonna call it HUD, all capitals. HUD stands for heads up display. Basically, it's text objects that the player sees that gives them information like your lives, your score, things like that. So make a HUD layer, have that at the top, and then we're going to make a new object, and it's going to be a text object. So I'm just going to double click out here, and I'm going to type in text. So instead of sprite, it's going to be a text object. So it's this right here. Okay. And this is going to be called um, spaceship health. So we can do that. So spaceship health, all one word like that. Click on the screen to add it, and you'll get this little text box here. Okay. So then in the properties window, what the first thing I do with the text box is you do want to make it a little bit bigger. If your text is too big to fill the box, the text will actually disappear and you won't see it at all. So you want to make sure your boxes are big enough for what you want to do. Now in the properties for this text box, we are going to make it say something different. So in at the very top property here, it'll say text. That'll actually be what it's showing right here on the screen. So I'm just going to type in the word health, okay, like that. And then we need to change the size and the font and the color, and we can do all that down here in the properties. So I'm going to change the size. Let's try like 25 and see how that looks. Yeah, 25 is good. Um, we can change the color right here. Now, since we have a darker background, you want to pick something light, like white or yellow or something like that. You can do whatever color you want, but we'll go ahead and try white. Okay, so now that's very readable, right? And I can drag and move this where I want it to go. You could also change the font. So if you click on the three dots here where it says Arial, you could switch the font. Not every font will work. Some of them it'll say you don't have access to it or whatever, but you can try them out and figure out what you like. Okay. You go ahead and pick the size, color, and font that you want. That's totally up to you. Okay. So now we'll just put this health down here for now. This is going to be organized a little bit better later. But eventually what would happen is the health bar and whatever would move and the health would be like right next to it down here. But I don't have it quite aligned yet. What you could do actually while we're at it is we could move this health bar and the bar around it at the same time. So you see at this, there's actually two objects there. If I go right below, I can drag like a rectangle around them and select them both at the same time. Then I could just move these both to the side without messing them up. And then I could take my health bar or my health text and put it like right here. And then I could just move that in like this. There we go. So that looks pretty good right there. Okay, so I've got that set. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to make some game over events so that we can actually lose and go to the game over screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the ES game, our main game here. Okay, I'm going to minimize the groups I'm not using to make it simpler. I always like to do that. So that way I don't have all that code like in my way. And then when I want to look at the code, I can open the group. So let's make a new group. So I'm going to right click. We're going to add a group called Game Over Events. Okay. So now I have the Game Over group. And then what we're going to do is basically we're going to say to the computer that when the ship's health is less than or equal to 0, we're going to go to the Game Over layout. So I'm just going to add an event to Game Over Events. We're going to do spaceship because health is an instance variable on the spaceship. So we start with the spaceship, and then if you type compare instance variable, which is right here, there's the health. And we want to know if it is less than or equal to 0. So if the spaceship's health is less than or equal to 0, the action is going to be system, go to layout, game over. Okay, so that's how that event looks. And then we already did the ES game over event. So if you try this out, it should all work. So if I just go to my game really quick and, or actually no, let's test out a few things here really quick. Test it on yours and make sure that this works. But start on the start layout. If you did it correctly, you should be able to press enter to play. You have to press enter again to start the wave. Okay, and then you can just crash into the asteroids. Your health should be going down. Okay, so I'm going to crash again. I might break this up into a bunch of smaller ones. I might lose health a little bit faster that way. Okay, but then the bottom line is, we'll get there pretty quickly here. is go ahead and just play this until you die. It's the next wave. I'm going to shoot these guys and make a bunch of little ones. I think I'll die a lot faster. There we go. Right, almost there. There we go. And then when you die, it should go to this game over screen. And then if you put the event on there, you should be able to press enter and it takes you back to the game. So that's basically the end of section 6. So as long as your game's working to that level, you are good to go.